Coming up on Tech News today, Apple is getting serious about exclusive content. AltspaceVR is back from the almost dead. Google Home gets telephone calling features, and why robots should never pretend to be human beings. All that more coming up next on Tech News today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1833, recorded Wednesday, August 16th, 2017. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by the Ring Video Doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your home. Go to ring.com/TNT and get up to $150 off a Ring of Security kit.
Welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we tell you what you need to know about what happened in tech today. I'm Megan Maroney.
I'm Jason Howell. So much happened in tech today. We're going to start with Apple, as we often do. Apple appears to be on the cusp of going all in on its approach to original content production, with a source telling the Wall Street Journal that the company plans to invest $1 billion into the acquisition and production of its own TV shows. Apple plans to match the quality of HBO-style content, though by comparison, HBO spent roughly $2 billion on its productions last year. So you compare that, it's a little difference there. Apple's first foray into original content includes Planet of the Apps, which I'd say pretty safely landed with a pretty consistent thud. It was a little bland. It was a little uninspired. Let's hope their next generation content is a bit more entertaining than that.
Carpool Karaoke.
Oh, there's that as well.
Yeah,
yes.
Also not getting rave reviews.
Now, what is the timeline on Carpool Karaoke? Did that come out after Planet of the Apps?
It just came out this past week, but only if you're a subscriber to Apple Music.
And that might be a challenge. I mean, it's not like Apple Music doesn't have a lot of subscribers, but maybe people just don't think of that service in this way. I mean, they probably don't because there hasn't been video content there in the way that Apple's ramping it up. So there's just not a lot of people. I mean, are a lot of people actually watching this stuff?
I don't know the numbers. They probably haven't released the numbers, but we haven't heard a lot of people talking about it. I think John Gruber had the best take on this from Daring Fireball, which is it's going to be a branding problem. It might be a branding problem for them. Like everyone says they're going to create the next Game of Thrones, but are they? Because they still want to sell iPhones to everyone, and a lot of people don't like how violent Game of Thrones is. Like, I'm fine with it. Kill whatever people in Game of Thrones you want. I, of course, love Westworld, which is violent and definitely adult content. But I can see where Apple would not want to create that kind of content because it might tarnish their brand. Because HBO, that's how they started. They started with, that kind of adult content, like, Sopranos type entertainment. And they didn't have to sell a product. And they didn't have to sell iPads to kindergartners or to parents of kindergartners at the same time. So maybe they'll come up with some kind of children's content with that money. I don't know.
Yeah, you would think that they probably would be wise to be more rounded with what they are offering. I could understand them wanting to do some sort of a show, maybe along the lines of Game of Thrones, from a content, kind of restricted content perspective, but also offering other things. Because if Apple wants people to start thinking of them as a supplier of content to which they want to subscribe to in order to get access to, they're going to need a little bit of variety in there, and they don't necessarily have the wide library. I mean, HBO's been doing this for so long. Netflix got into it relatively recently, but as we've seen, they've scaled fast on this whole original content thing, and there's no signs of slowing down there. So, but it's not like Apple doesn't have the money to pull this off. I mean, $1 billion is really a drop in the bucket compared to the amount of cash reserves that Apple has to throw at this if they really want to buckle down on this and see how it goes. This right here points to around 10 new shows or so. And yeah, I guess we'll see kind of how that pans out. Apple had a really good thing going on for a long time with iTunes when it came to video programming, you know, other people's content, movies, TV shows, when people were buying this stuff. Now people aren't buying it. So you have to imagine that means that Apple's taken a big hit. Maybe this is kind of the alternative, is to ramp this up and get people purchasing their content through the subscription.
Yeah, and they've taken a hit with iPhone sales. I mean, there's only so many people in the world that they can sell iPhones to. You know, that's going to eventually run out. And so I think that they really are depending on their subscriptions and services. And, you know, they hired those executives from Sony who will be looking for this kind of content. But also, I mean, I think that Netflix also got big with House of Cards. That was their big, and that's an adult show as well. So I'm sure these services have their own content that is just for kids, but I don't think that gets as much people talking about it.
No, it definitely doesn't.
And which is weird, because it's like in the movie theaters, it seems like there's only superhero movies. Like there's only those PG-13 superhero movies that the whole family can go to. So maybe it'll be something more along that line. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
AltspaceVR, the leader in social virtual reality, might not be shutting down after all, as we and others reported 2 weeks ago. The VR hangout that lets you watch important speeches and pretend to be a robot bee posted a press release saying that they'd run out of money in late July. But then this week they released an update saying that they will live on. The company thanked the community for sharing memories, videos, tweets, and emails, which led them to discussions with potential investors. Now, they say they're talking to third parties about a sustainable solution to continue development and growth for the future. And then Palmer Luckey tweeted asking if he should help. There was a vote, take a vote, whether he should help or not. So I'm excited for them. I enjoyed my experience in AltspaceVR, but I think if it is Palmer Luckey, that makes sense why they were not saying who it was, because he is a little bit of a controversial figure.
Yeah, right about now, definitely. Palmer's original tweet was the end of July. And then if you look at his kind of Twitter feed, when news of this broke out, he simply retweeted the news article or posted the news article yesterday. So it's kind of, I mean, we still actually don't know for certain, but that's an interesting hint to be dropped into the feed, that he's paying enough attention to it that he would just tweet it, unless maybe he has something to do with it, or maybe he's just interested. I guess we'll find out. But see, VR is totally saved. Nothing to worry about at all. It was going away. We thought this was the harbinger of things to come. It's not. VR's great again. That's all it took.
So says you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the reality is AltspaceVR, for what it was offering, might just kind of be a little ahead of the curve, right? The 35,000 users was respectable. It's just not a lot, like in the grand scheme of things when you compare it to other aspects of the technology industry and other services out there. But maybe it's a lot for VR, and that's great. But it just kind of illustrates that there isn't as big of a rush on this stuff as, you know, a lot of people in this particular part of the industry, I think, we're hoping for. It still needs some time to really get developed out and to bring more people in a bigger way into this sort of stuff.
It needs time, and it needs money, a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. Money to work it through the slow time so that it can develop over time, become better, and then become a big moneymaker. And that might not be for years.
Yeah. And if Palmer Luckey's going to be giving away his money to something, better this than, what he gave it to last time, which was, the company that did just sort of weird, super offensive memes.
Yes, we'll see.
Offensive to me.
There we go.
Personally.
A much awaited feature for the Google Home is beginning to roll out to users in the U.S. Voice calling. I've been looking forward to this. Voice calling will now allow home users to place telephone calls from their device by saying, "Okay, G, call so-and-so." You can throw out a name of a business or somebody in your contacts list, and it'll know who to call. During a call, the user can use the wake word to fire off assistant queries. And once that's done, once you do that, it actually places the caller on temporary hold to give you the answer and then takes them off hold. And so they don't hear any of those queries. And then at the end of the call, user can say, hey, G, stop, or disconnect, or hang up, or end call, or whatever. And it's going to understand that and disconnect the call. But now you've got a phone where you've got a Google Home.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of.
And, I also have that with my Amazon Echo, but it doesn't, there's some really, it's weird. It's one of those things where it's like, can we just combine the two? Because there are things that the Google Home calling has that the Echo doesn't, and vice versa. So the Google Home, you can call anyone's number.
Right. Yeah. It's basically any phone number, as long as it's not 911, which would be, I feel like that's a big miss, but because it's a voice over IP, I think that's a hurdle there. Hopefully Google figures that out. And you also, at this point, can't call international or premium rate numbers unless you have a Google Voice account or a Project Fi account associated with it. And then you'll just pay the premium rates for those through those services.
And with the Amazon Echo, you can only call someone who has the Alexa app on their phone.
So it's like a
device,
video messaging solution, or an audio or video messaging.
Yeah,
solution.
like you can't do video messaging with the Google Home, but you can with the Amazon Echo Show. I'm assuming you can't really do international calls with the Amazon Echo calling either, because most people don't have Amazon Echoes. So I'm assuming, but I don't know if you could, just because you can't have the Echo in another country doesn't necessarily mean you can't have the Echo app. I don't know if you live somewhere where you can't get the Amazon Echo, but you can get the Alexa app on your phone, then email me at megan@twit.tv so I can correct that. The other thing is that you have to have you have to have the Project Fi or Google Voice, or you appear as an unknown number.
Yeah, right now. So they had said when they first announced this, I believe at Google I/O, that when you're calling from a Google Home, it will be associated with your phone number, and it'll resolve on the other end to the person that you're calling as your phone number. I wondered how that was going to happen if it wasn't through Google Voice or Project Fi, to be honest, because that's kind of going through Google's system. Maybe there's a way to do that I don't understand, but at launch right now, yes, as long as you're a Project Fi or a Google Voice user, your phone number will show up on the other end. If it doesn't, it's an unidentified number, essentially. And yeah, this is just video of it working. If you hit play on that, we can hear it real quick.
Call Alamo Draft House.
Calling Alamo Draft House, South Lamar on South Lamar Boulevard in Austin.
So you can throw out the name of a business that isn't in your contact list, is still going to use Google's knowledge graph to kind of tie in that phone number and call it, and also based on your location of where you are. You know, so I think that's pretty cool. Another actually interesting thing that I'm looking forward to playing around with is the multi-user support that Google Home now has. Means that I could say, "Hey G, call my mom," and it would actually call my mom. But when my wife says, "Hey G, call my mom," it would identify her voice and call her mom based on her contacts list, and that's a cool feature. So there you go.
Well, Andy Rubin's Essential phone will be shipping next week. The much anticipated and delayed new Android phone starts landing in the hands of those who pre-ordered first, and we're expecting to get the phones back in June. To make matters worse, only the Black Moon version is available now. White versions of the phone are still a few weeks away, according to emails sent to those who pre-ordered, like Jason. The phone costs around $700. It's only shipping to the U.S. right now. And there will be another first look event in New York City on Monday, August 21st, but no official release date yet.
We keep getting this. You know, Ruben said it's going to be 30 days back in June, and it wasn't 30 days. Time passed on. And then many times other people, including Andy Rubin, said, it's just a couple of more weeks. And then time passed. I will believe it when that device is in our hands. But this is promising. I did get the email. I had signed up for the white version and basically got the email that said, if you're willing to switch to the black version, we can guarantee, we say that it will ship within 7 days, which with, a couple of days shipping means that people are probably going to start receiving these devices in 10 days or so.
It's not black, it's Black Moon.
Oh, sorry, Black Moon. I can't keep all the unique names of colors of phones straight. They all have their own unique names now. So it's, I also read that it will be available in Sprint stores for those of us holdouts still on Sprint on Friday, 8/18. So okay. So you can go out there and get your next phone.
Allegedly.
Wow, so 2 days from now. That's interesting. Gosh, we'll see if that happens because they have that first look event in New York on Monday. Actually, Ron Richards from All About Android is going to that event. So we're going to definitely be talking about it next Tuesday. And I know Leo has officially ordered the Essential. So once we get that in, I'm sure we can probably finagle it out of his hands and bring it on the show and show it off.
You guys are going to fight over it, wherever it comes first.
Give me my Essential.
Did you also reserve...
Sorry.
Did you also
I get really excited when I talk about this phone.
Did you reserve the Essential 360 camera as well?
No, I didn't.
If you did,
I don't know if Leo
it's not
did,
coming next week either. It's also delayed.
Okay. All right. I saw Andy Rubin kind of showing off the 360 camera on stage at Recode when he was kind of first showing off the phone. And I have to admit, like the video feed that was coming through on the phone did not look very good. So yes, it's probably one of those things where, yeah, technically it does 360 degrees of video. It probably doesn't look as good as like a dedicated hardware device, but we will see. And I'm very curious to see how they manage the whole modular approach with the Essential phone. Coming up, the ethics robots pretending to be humans. That's an interesting transition.
I think that means you're an Android sheeple, maybe?
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
It's an interesting statement you're making over there, Kevin. I'll remember that at the end of the show when I thank people.
I don't think there are Android sheep. I don't think there's Essential sheeples yet.
Not yet.
No. Oh, Androids dream of sheep? Those did not look like electric sheep, though.
That works. We'll go with that, Kevin.
Okay.
Coming up, the ethics robots pretending to be humans and vice versa. The ethics around that, like, should they identify themselves? We'll talk all about that. But first, let's take a minute to thank the Ring Video Doorbell. They're the sponsor of this episode. Ring's mission is to make neighborhoods safer. Today, over 1 million people use the amazing Ring Video Doorbell to help protect their homes. I have one. Anyone that comes over, they ask about it. They love it. It's just an awesome device. Ring knows how home security begins at the very front door of your home, but it doesn't end there. That's why they're extending that same level of security to the rest of your home with the Ring Floodlight Cam. Just like Ring's Video Doorbell, Floodlight Cam is a motion-activated camera and floodlight that connects to your phone. With HD video and two-way audio, it lets you know the moment anyone steps on your property. You can see and speak to visitors, even set off an alarm right from your phone. Maybe even play a prank, I don't know, on Halloween. With Ring's Floodlight Cam, when things go bump in the night, you'll immediately know what it is. Whether you're home or away, the Ring Floodlight Cam lets you keep an eye on your home. Ring Floodlight Cams offer the ultimate in-home security with high visibility floodlights and a powerful HD camera that puts security in your hands. Named the Wall Street Journal's Best of CES 2017, you can actually monitor every corner of your property with a Ring of Security kit. All kits include a Ring Video Doorbell and your choice of either 1, 2, or 3 floodlight cams. Connect your Ring Video Doorbell with your favorite smart locks and hubs for added convenience, monitoring, and security. With Ring, you're always home. Save up to $150 off a Ring of Security kit when you go to ring.com/TNT. That's ring.com/TNT, and we thank Ring for their support. Have you ever been chatting or maybe tweeting with someone about something, and then you ask yourself, wait, is this an actual person or is this a bot? Because it totally could be a bot right now. Joining us to talk about the ethics of bot identification, I don't know if I coined that phrase, that term, but there you go, is Rafe Needleman, content strategist at Cisco and also editor of Callers Call Back and a friend of mine from the CNET days. It's great to talk with you, Rafe.
Hi, Jason. It's good to be back.
It's great to have you back. So you say, so I was out. I think the last time you were on, I was out, and you talked a little bit about kind of robot ethics tied to voice assistants. This is kind of related to that. You say that bots have a responsibility to identify as such when interacting with us puny human beings. Why is that?
I do. I say that programmers of bots have a responsibility to program the bots to identify as a bot when they are talking to a human, so that the human knows that they are not talking to a robot and they are talking to a bot. And the reason is so that we as humans can correctly adjust our form of communication to the person or the entity that we are talking to. So we know that if we have confidential information, that there's not a human looking at it over our shoulder, or we know that if we want to sweet talk the person on the other end of the line or the thing on the other end of the line, it's not going to get a genuine response if it's a bot, but it will if it's a human.
Is this, I mean, kind of along the same lines as, like, you know, letting someone know that you're recording a telephone call? Like, is that kind of what we're talking about here?
I think very much so. And if you get into the deeper ethics and legalities of it, it may be that. I mean, if you are talking to a robot, you are being recorded. That there's no question of it, right? Because they record everything. Mm-hmm. If you're talking to a human, maybe it'll be forgotten.
Yeah, yeah. Is it our responsibility as human beings talking with robots to treat them as if they were humans? I think Megan and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, and I think in the kind of comparison to voice assistants, it makes a lot of sense why you might consider that. You know, it's probably just a good thing to treat to talk to things right or well, you know, even if it's a robot or whatever, just as a good exercise, a good way to live your life. Does that translate into kind of text form when you're chatting with robots?
Well, that was one of the first stories I wrote on Caller Calls Back, my guide to technology etiquette. And initially I thought that, you know, we should teach ourselves and our children that people are people and you need to be nice to them, and robots are machines and you can treat them however you want because they're just machines. I think ultimately the correct thing to do is to be polite to everything, because you never know if that robot is actually a robot or a human, because sometimes there are humans impersonating robots, which is a whole different thing. And furthermore, if indeed these robots are recording us, and if they are becoming smarter and smarter, and if they are measuring our sentiment and using that as part of the way they treat us, then it just stands to reason we should be polite to whatever we're communicating with, because if we're not, it could come back to bite us.
So many times when companies are working on chatbots, they have humans pretending to be robots, pretending to be humans.
Yes.
Where's the ethics there?
Oh, I love that. That situation, which I covered here, is called the Wizard of Oz development methodology. And the idea is this. So I'm developing a chat bot to, I don't know, do anything. You know, a cooking chatbot, or, you know, somebody learning how to drive chatbot. Oh, that sounds like a bad idea. But I'm developing this, and I want to know what the users of this chatbot are going to do, how they're going to react. Now, I can't program all of this in, because I don't know how my users are going to react, and just figuring out what they might do is very resource intensive. So I, as the developer, or people working for me, sit down and pretend to be a robot and interact with the human at the other end, our client, our customer, as if we are the machine. We try to get them to treat us as the machine they think that we are, to learn how they use the device. Now, that's a development methodology, and I've seen companies actually do this. Facebook did this with M.com originally. They had a combination of human and machine intelligence working together to solve people's challenges or people's requests in real time. And as a development methodology, it's kind of an edge case, so it's not something that you need to be completely ethical about all the time. One could argue, although I might not. As an ongoing thing, I think that if you are a human trying to pretend to be a robot, you really shouldn't do that. You should say, look, normally you're used to talking to the human at the ftd.com, whatever chatbot site, but today, normally you're used to talking to a robot, but today you're talking to a human. How can I help you?
Yeah, I feel like this gets really challenging when you're talking about like this world of chat where it's just text on a screen. Like at least if I'm talking to someone in a real sense, I get other indicators that tell me whether this is a human or whether this is a robot. In text, I feel like it's really easy to miss that. Like, what is the responsibility of a robot, of a bot that you're chatting with to identify itself as a bot, and to what frequency? Because it could be very easy to kind of forget that if you're engaged in this super convincing chat with a bot.
Well, I don't know if we need like a recording beep that comes on every 30 seconds and goes beep. I'm a bot. Maybe we do. But certainly at the beginning of the conversation, the bot needs to say, hello, I am a chat bot. I'm a machine, or something like that. How may I help you? Or hello, I am a person. I mean, especially when you go onto chatbots and they say, hi, you're talking to Steve. It's like, I'm not talking to Steve. Because, Steve could never answer my questions as quickly as you could, or Steve wouldn't make that particular typo.
Right.
So it's, and we treat the entity that we are communicating with differently depending on whether or not we think it's a machine or a person with feelings.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I wonder what it's doing to us. I mean, I follow a bot that, I forgot what it's called, but it's a Twitter bot that just occasionally reminds me to get off Twitter. It'll just say, like, you might be thirsty, get a drink. Or yeah, or stand up and stretch. And it's so nice, but I never feel like I need to respond to it. Thank you so much, because I remember it's a bot and it's called, like, Calm Bot or whatever it is, Relief Bot. So, I mean, do you think it's changing us, like that it's making me feel like I don't need to respond to other people who might be giving me advice and saying thank you for it?
Is it changing us? Yes, but I don't think in that particular way. I think that as humans, we are extraordinarily good at knowing how to interact with different entities, whether it's our family, our friends, our children, people we know are hard of hearing, pets, strangers. We categorize them in our heads extraordinarily well, and we know this person you have to be nice to. This person isn't all that bright. You got to be, very careful with what you say. This person takes everything literally. This person's very sensitive. This person just went through a divorce. Whatever. And we can put bots in that same category in our head and know to talk to this one in a particular way and this one in a different way. So I don't think that having AI helpers that we are communicating with is making us less human. However, I do think that it is a responsibility of the people who are putting those things into the world for us to interact with to let us know what we are interacting with.
Is this a short-term consideration or a long-term? Because I feel like we're in the early days, of course, around building these bots and somewhat convincing bots. But like you point out in your article, they're very specialized in their knowledge. They're not all-encompassing. However, it's pretty easy to kind of look forward in the future and see where bots do become more and more like humans in a very holistic sort of sense, in the way that it thinks and the way that it communicates. At that point, is something like this necessary? Like maybe we are at a point then where we accept the fact that robots are like us, and that is unnecessary.
Well, now you're getting beyond etiquette and ethics and into philosophy.
Yes.
And I refer you to Westworld.
Okay.
If a robot can imitate being offended by the way we treat it or being charmed by the way we treat it, are they actually feeling that emotion that they are imitating? The philosophical, religious answer to that is no, of course not. They're machines. But science fiction, this is the talk of science fiction. If these machines can imitate us perfectly, if we program them to become self-programming, self-directed, to start setting their own goals, to seek pleasure and security the way that we do as living beings, should we treat them as if they have feelings? I do not have the answer to that. However, I will say that, again, in the interest of self-preservation, when you have a device that may be able to recognize, react to, and remember the way you treat it, and furthermore, when that device is unbelievably powerful, or even if it just has control of your Comcast bill, you might as well be nice to it, right?
I guess so. I mean, I know, at least on my part, I'm doing my part, because very often when I talk to my Google Home, I say thank you at the end. I know it probably doesn't hear it, but it makes me feel good to say thank you when I ask for the weather, and it tells me the weather.
Jason,
that's what I wanted.
I will tell you this, that it's Google. Google records everything. That your Google Home today doesn't care, but 20 years from now, when it's recorded everything you've ever said to it, it'll remember.
Yeah, that's good reminder, good advice. Rafe Needleman, it's always such a great time talking with you, and really appreciate you taking time out today to talk to us about this. Tell people where they can follow all your work online.
Right. So the Tech Etiquette Guide, your guide for proper behavior in a technological world, is at callercallsback.com, based on the #1 rule of who makes the call back when the cell phone call drops. It's callercallsback.com. I'm doing a lot of other work at Cisco, which I wish I could tell you about, but I can't. But it's super fun. But if you want to follow me, it's callercallsback.com or follow me at Twitter at Rafe.
I never knew that rule, by the way.
I didn't know it till Rafe taught us.
Awesome.
Which
the caller calls back thing. It's always that weird, confusing thing where everybody's crossing the streams and leaving messages at the same time for each other.
But I did think of you because I had the experience and I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember if I called my dad or my dad had called me. I
have a decision chart in there. The whole thing, etiquette is game theory. And every one of my columns, I'm trying to put a little decision chart in there. I have a question for you. This happened to me the other day. When you are in front of somebody who has got their head in their phone, heads down, earphones on in their phone, is it the proper etiquette to hold the door open? Do you have to hold the door open for somebody who is just like zoned into their phone?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you do.
I know.
I mean, because in the times that you have, if you have, you probably notice that you don't end up getting a thank you on the other end.
But that's why you hold the door open, to get a thank you?
Well, no, but it's nice if I'm going to hold a door. Doesn't it suck when you hold the door open for like a stream of people and like not one of them says thank you? They just like assume you're there to hold the door open. It feels nice to get that thank you. I say thank you when someone holds the door open for me. That's all I'm saying.
This is why I'm writing this blog.
Well, you're doing the work that everybody needs to follow. So thank you, Rafe. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
I also love that he referred to Westworld as a philosophical text. He might be the first, but I do not think he will be the last.
Now I feel even more reason to check out Westworld. I think I have to. It's my duty at this point. You can get like a free week of HBO or something, a free month. You can figure out how to do it. I know there are ways, but hey, I've made it this long even not watching a single episode of Game of Thrones. So, eventually once Westworld is all done, I guess I'll catch up on all of them. I'll binge on them.
Okay. Well, we got some feedback from Scott. He writes about our discussion yesterday about Google's messaging tool Allo now being available on the web. I see this as another nail in Allo's coffin. Apparently, it requires Chrome. Are we in the 1990s again with certain things requiring a specific browser, i.e.? I thought Google was the anti-Microsoft and supported standards and openness. Secondly, with it being tied to a specific device that has to be functional, removes a lot of its versatility. Phones break, they die, and they become otherwise non-functional. One of the reasons we love Hangouts so much is that it remains working even when something is up with our phone, which for me has happened many times over the years. So what does that mean? Allo is specific to your phone? Like you can't...
Well, I mentioned that yesterday. So... A, it's only working on Android, but B, when you go to the desktop version of Allo, you're not pulling information from the cloud. It's literally, it puts up a QR code and you sync it with your phone. It's pulling that information directly from your phone into the desktop version. It's using the cloud to facilitate that, but it's not like Google's serving you all of those messages from a server online down to there, because when they created Allo, they tied it to a specific phone number, same as the way they do it with WhatsApp. So that phone number is the only place that those conversations that are siloed into your phone are accessible. If I have two phones and I set up Allo on both phones, even though I have conversations with the same people, the conversations I have on this phone stay on that phone. Conversations I have on this phone stay on that phone. So there's no like crossing of those things. It's just an extra kind of security measure that they built around that to keep it tied to a specific phone number, specific device. So it's just a different approach. It's worked really well for WhatsApp. I mean, no one really has complained that I've seen about the way that WhatsApp does that. It's just the way they chose to do it. But I completely agree. Like, it's not as user friendly, I would say, as Hangouts. Hangouts was really nice because you could open up a million different apps in a million different places and the same messages are streaming to all the different places. But Allo's just different, and that either works for you or it doesn't. I get it. I totally get it. TNT's fan of the day is Jonathan Wheat on Instagram, who posted this picture saying, "Splitting wood, listening to tech news today." That's quite a pile of split wood you got there in the background. Thank you for doing all that hard work, and thank you even more for listening to the show while you do it. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup. You can post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we're going to find it.
Quick quiz.
Uh-huh.
What is scarier, a robot or a spider?
I could get rid of a spider pretty easily if I need to.
So a robot is scarier?
Depending on the size of the robot, yes.
Okay. What about a robotic spider?
Now that's cool.
Hexa is a programmable robot that uses a camera and distance sensors to find its way around, including using its 8 spider-like legs to maneuver around just like the real thing. Now, Josh, one of our editors here, he is embarrassingly arachnophobic. It's embarrassing for all of us, to be honest. He was not scared of this at all. I called him over to my desk with my giant monitor, and I said, come look at this. And he was like, what? Oh. So it's cute, I think. What did you say? You said it looked like an AirPod.
See? It kind of looks like an AirPod. When it's moving around, it kind of looks like the point of the AirPod that you put into that one. Kind of looks like you could fit that into your ear, and it's a headphone. So maybe what this is, depending on the scale of it, people are always losing their AirPods. Maybe this is an AirPod with legs that will find you once it drops on the ground
and crawl right into your
right into your ear like Kong.
So that's creepy. It runs on Mind. That's an operating system built on the Linux kernel and optimized for robotics. And it can draw. If you're watching the video, you could see that his draw. Burke has something to say.
Burke says, it's the round, stubby feet and only 2 eyes, no fangs.
I see. And the lack of hair. I think spiders, the fact that they're hairy insects, that's what's terrifying about them.
See, this is really cool, right? Like it's programmable. They have an SDK that developers can program around, use the tools, create skills, and then share those with other developers. So you can, who knows? I don't know what you can do, but that's up to the developers to decide. It's the opportunities are endless, I suppose. Yeah.
So it's a Kickstarter right now, $500 for early backers, then $600 after that. I think you should get it. Jason?
I don't know if I need a robot spider in my life. But that's no reason not to get one. $600, however, is a reason not to get one. For me, right now, at this point in my life, that's all I'm going to say. It does have the phone app. It can be controlled with a phone app. It also has a 720p camera on board. I don't know why you'd need that or want that, but there you go.
Do you think it's like a spider, what a spider sees? That would be awesome.
I think it's from the spider's perspective. So yeah, it's kind of sounding creepier and creepier as we talk about it, actually. So yeah, if you get one, let us know. And you can email us, tnt@twit.tv. We record live every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC at twit.tv/live. Like I said, tnt@twit.tv. If you want to be part of the show, you can also leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. And find us on Twitter. We are at Tech News Today TV.
You can find all the ways to subscribe to our show at twit.tv/TNT. Subscribe to this show. Subscribe to All About Android, Jason's other show. Subscribe to iOS Today. That's my other show. And if you want to tweet at me to tell me you are terrified of a robotic spider or not, I'm at Megan Maroney.
And I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter. Thanks to Kevin for switching and editing the show. I should say thank you to Josh, because I always forget that he edits the show on Tuesdays. And I always give Kevin credit for it. And Kevin, I know you are deserving, and I know you accept that credit, but almost every Tuesday late at night after I get done with All About Android, Josh walks out and he's like, sure, thank Kevin again. So there you go, Josh. You got 20 minutes at the end of today's show. Thanks to Burke for helping out in the studio, and thanks to you guys for talking tech with us. Today, we will see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.